So the other day I had chocolate all day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, all chocolate, even dinner. I had a savory chocolate dinner on this day. None of that was planned, but it ended up being kind of the result of nothing in my day going to plan at all. So this is a what I eat in a day video, but it's also kind of a story about how when things don't go your way, you can sometimes turn it around with a little creativity and a lot of chocolate. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope it gives you some good ideas. Thank you to Function of Beauty for teaming up with me, and let's go ahead and get started with my very chocolatey day. So this day didn't really go according to plan because I woke up on this morning and I had this big blank slate of a day in front of me. The day was kind of blocked off as like a day off to hang out with friends and family. One of my best friends was supposed to be visiting. We were going to go to brunch, and then I was going to have dinner with my sister on this night. But unfortunately, my friend got sick and she wasn't able to make the trip. And my sister spontaneously came over the night before, and we had grilled cheese and tomato soup, and we watched this show on Hulu called The Dark Side of the 90s, which we binge watched, and it was very engrossing, but we weren't going to like repeat that again the next night. So I have this day where I wake up and I'm like, this was supposed to be a friends and family kind of rest and recharge day, but now I'm thinking maybe I should just work. Maybe I'll just have a typical work day. But regardless of what the day was going to hold, I wanted to do something a little bit special for breakfast. So I started with my chocolate almond oatmeal, and the way I get this really creamy is I add the oats and the liquid in at the same time. The package directions on the oatmeal will tell you to add the oats after the water or the liquid is boiling, but that's good if you want it to be kind of like chunkier style. Like if you want the oats to still be very much intact and have some texture and chew, that's how you should do it. But I like when the oats really break down and get super creamy and thick, like porridge style. So what I do to achieve that is I put the oats and the liquid in together. I add the salt and the maple syrup in at that stage, and then I bring it all to a boil. The reason I add the salt and the maple in the beginning is because I want them to have as much time as possible to really infuse the oats with lots of flavor. You can add them in at the end, of course, and it's still gonna taste delicious, but it's just not gonna have that same amount of time to like infiltrate the oats and like really penetrate the oats with flavor. So they're not gonna have that same depth of flavor. And I do think with cooking, these little things, these tiny little techniques can really take a dish from good to great. It's like the little things that make a difference, especially when you're using very simple ingredients. So I bring that to a boil, and as soon as it starts boiling, I reduce the heat to medium, and I actually timed how long I let it simmer. I simmer it for about 6 minutes, and then I add my cacao powder. And cacao is great because it has a lot of antioxidants. It's thought to be good for cardiovascular health, but I love it because it has a really intensely rich chocolatey flavor. Then I add my almond extract. I like to do this right at the end because that way it's not going to cook out and become like sort of a background flavor. I want it to be really prominent and stand out because it's so good with the chocolate and that little hint of salt. It's like a salted chocolate almond bar, but in oatmeal form. Mix that all together, and then I topped it with bananas, some peanut butter, and pumpkin seed. So after breakfast, I figured I still want to have a fun day. I still want to do something that is away from screens and away from work to kind of give myself a little bit of time to rest and recharge and just get those creative juices flowing again. So I decided to just have a spontaneous day. And what I do on these kinds of days is I kind of pick a place and then I just wander around and explore. And that might sound so not fun to some people, but I am a natural wanderer and like window shopper. I love going to an area, walking around, popping in and out of the shops and the markets. Even if it's like a place I've been many times before, I feel like there's always something new to see and enjoy and learn, and I always just feel really good after I do that. I think it's really fun just to pick one area and maybe think of like one or two things you want to do or see or try. Really just leave room in your day for a little bit of spontaneity, just to kind of go where the day takes you, so you're not like in task-oriented mode, especially when you've been working a lot and you are sort of going by your to-do list and being productive. It can seem like even on your day off, you're still like checking the boxes of things you want to do. At least that's what happens to me. And so I find that having a very loose plan, but with a lot of wiggle room and, you know, just sort of an open mind really helps me to actually relax because I'm not ticking mental boxes, if that makes sense. So I decided on Beverly Hills because there's this place that I wanted to try called La Durée Plant-Based. taste. It's a vegan French restaurant and they have these incredible French pastries, like very authentic, very ornate, and like just technically very complicated recipes that I don't really tend to make stuff like that at home. So I got myself ready to go out and I showered, I washed my hair, I used my new Function of Beauty shampoo and conditioner. And I say new because I've been using Function of Beauty for a few years now, but I recently tweaked the formula because I recently got highlights. I went kind of a little bit lighter for summertime and I wanted to keep my same formula but make sure that it also had color protection, which is why I love using Function of Beauty, because not only is it vegan and cruelty free, but it's also made for my hair. I went online and I took the hair quiz. I told them what my hair profile was and what my hair goals were, and then they made me a shampoo and conditioner custom to my hair type and what my hair goals were. So some of my hair goals were to replenish the hair, hydrate, and I also wanted shine. All of this is because I like to wear my hair long and I wanted it to grow, you know, long and healthy and strong, and I do feel like my hair is super healthy. I just always feel like my hair feels really good after I use this shampoo and conditioner. So I've been a really big fan of Function of Beauty for years, so I teamed up with them for this video to get you guys 20% off your first order. So if you're looking for a really great shampoo and conditioner that is vegan, cruelty free, and custom made for your hair, then you can click the link in the description box below to get that 20% off. So I decided to actually curl my hair on this day because normally I just let it air dry, but felt like getting a little fancy, and then I headed down to Beverly Hills. Got a water and a coffee, and I ordered lunch first because they do have a lunch menu. They also have a brunch menu, and everything that's vegan and plant-based on the menu is in green, so it's really easy to see what the vegan options are, and there were quite a few. So I went for the vegan club sandwich, and it was really good because it had this rice paper bacon, which I don't think I've ever had rice paper bacon before, but I've seen it all over the internet. But what I really liked about it was that it was super thin and crispy. It just added this little bit of texture and crunch that was really nice, and it had that sort of quintessential sweet, smoky, salty bacon flavor that wasn't too overpowering. It was like the perfect thing for a sandwich. And then I moved on to the real reason I was there, which was the chocolate pastries. I ordered a pretty good selection knowing that I would take some home and enjoy at another time, but I wanted to kind of try a little bit of everything because that's part of the fun of going to a place like this. So I started with a chocolate dessert, and I'm definitely gonna butcher the names here, but it's called a plaisir sucré, and it translates to sweet pleasure in French, but it is a chocolate and hazelnut dessert, and the bottom layer is a hazelnut meringue cookie, so it's a little bit crunchy on the bottom, and then it has layers of vegan chocolate mousse, a chocolate chantilly cream, and chocolate ganache on top. So lots of different layers, so beautiful. And the first thing I noticed was that it was incredibly rich and sweet and chocolatey. It's a very sweet dessert, and it's one of those where it looks kind of small. It's like a small rectangle like that, but you have a couple of bites and you're like, wow, this is so, it's like potent. You know, it's concentrated, delicious chocolatiness, and if you like chocolate and hazelnut together, you'll love the combo. And the cream, like the chocolate cream, was just so silky and smooth. It was like a milk chocolate. Then I moved on to the one thing on the plate that was not chocolate, and that was, I think it's called an isafon or an isaphone. It's actually a Persian dessert, and it comes from a place that is known for their roses. So this was actually a vegan rose macaron that had fresh raspberries, rose water cream, and lychee in the center. So the actual like cookie macaron itself is super crumbly. It's like light as air. If you've ever had meringue or pavlova, anything like that, it's just airy. Like it almost just completely crumbles and melts in your mouth, and it's so sweet and light and delicious. And it had this background flavor of rose, which was great, very unique and special. Then I got my favorite thing, which was the pain au chocolat, and that is why I was there. Chocolate croissants, I think I love croissants anyway, but I think I really romanticize them because of the movie It's Complicated. I love that movie. I love the scene where they're making pain au chocolat late at night and they're like layering it. If you've ever made croissants or you've ever seen how they're made, it is a labor of love to get all those flaky layers. And I loved this one because it wasn't too sweet, and it was actually kind of rich and buttery and savory. I love desserts that are balanced in that way and sweet, but not in your face sweet. And this was exactly that. So the chocolate croissant was definitely my favorite, but I would say if you're gonna go to La Durée, I would recommend getting whatever you want to go and taking it somewhere to sit outside, because there's so many beautiful places to sit outside in Beverly Hills and like parks and stuff that are just a couple blocks up. I think that would be more enjoyable than eating it at the actual restaurant. But overall, the food and specifically the pastries were really good. After lunch, I walked around, I enjoyed the sunshine, I kind of window shopped a little bit, and I did actually go to that park that I mentioned, which brought back so many memories because I've lived in LA for a long time and I have memories at that park of like me and my boyfriend at the time studying for a test, and he was like quizzing me and I was all nervous. I had my flashcards, and I used to work at the Beverly Hills diner, which isn't there anymore, but I used to wait on Pacino there all the time, and he always ordered a Diet Coke with lemon and toast, which I always thought was so funny. It feels like eons ago that I worked there. That place isn't even there anymore. So whenever I'm walking around in that area, it's like this place that I'm very familiar with and I've spent a lot of time, but it's always changing, and there's, you know, new places coming in, and it's kind of funny to be like walking down memory lane and also seeing all these new places at the same time. And I think that's one of the reasons that I love exploring in this way. And I think it's even better to do solo. I know it can seem a little bit overwhelming or weird to be, you know, out spending the day in public, kind of like taking yourself on a date. I've heard people describe it like that, where you're sitting at the restaurant by yourself or the bookshop by yourself or whatever, and that might be uncomfortable. But I actually really value alone time. I feel like I love being with my friends and my family, but I experience things, I even shop differently when I'm by myself, and it ends up being like a very fun thing to kind of explore on your own and create memories with yourself. So if that's ever stopped you from trying a new restaurant or going to the movies or whatever because you don't want to go alone, I would try it. It might be uncomfortable at first. I remember especially when I was working in New York and I had to do, like, I was working at a newspaper and I had to go interview people at a big party by myself. I remember calling my mom on the way there like, I'm so uncomfortable. What am I, like, who am I going to talk to? People are going to think I'm weird. And she had to like coach me. It is awkward to go places in public by yourself sometimes, but over the years I've come to really enjoy it and value that time because it allows me time to decompress while exploring and just sort of think through things. One of the things I thought through during this afternoon strolling was that I had chocolate for breakfast and I had chocolate for lunch, so why not turn it into a chocolate day? Like, I was in a great mood and I was in the mood to try something new, and I know that there's a lot of savory recipes that you can make with chocolate, but I've never really done them before, like chocolate chili, and I know mole sauce has chocolate in it, so I was like, let's find a recipe. And the one I decided to try that night was actually a Martha Stewart recipe for her beef chili, but it's like a chocolate beef chili, and that might seem really strange, but it ended up being delicious. So I'll show you how I veganized it and how it turned out because it was new to me as well. So I was very curious.
So the first thing I did for this chili was chop up some onions, and it's going to seem like a lot of onions if you're making this, but the onions actually act as kind of a base layer that you really build all the other flavors on, and they're going to kind of naturally sweeten the chili just slightly to kind of counter and balance the more savory, spicy flavors. You want to let that cook for a good 10 minutes or so and then add your garlic and jalapeno. I did add less salt because I'm using vegan meat, which is already seasoned. If I were using ground beef, it wouldn't have any seasoning, so you want to account for that with the salt. And then we're going to add the chili powder, cocoa powder, and tomato paste, which really creates a beautiful depth of flavor. And as soon as those spices hit the pan, it instantly smells so good. So I let that cook for a few minutes to really bring those spices to life. And I went ahead and I cut up some sweet potato to pop in the oven. I just did olive oil, salt, and pepper on those. Then I added fire roasted tomatoes, vegan beef broth, my kidney beans, and also the vegan beef. And I let this simmer on the stove for a few minutes to thicken up slightly. After about 10 minutes, I pulled out the sweet potatoes and I added my broccoli, which just has some garlic powder, salt, and pepper on top, and I put that into the oven to keep roasting. This chili was actually surprisingly hot. I think I added a little bit too much jalapeno, but it was delicious, and that chocolate really brings out all of the other spices and intensifies them in a really delicious way where it just kind of tasted like it had been simmering for a really long time, even though it came together really fast. Because it was so spicy, I ended up adding a lot more vegan sour cream than you see here, and actually this is just plain Kite Hill almond milk yogurt. I use that as sour cream a lot just because it's generally easier to find, but I just plated this up with my veggies, my sweet potatoes, which was really good with the chili as well. Like the spices from the chili and the sweetness from the sweet potatoes was nice. Like kind of how cornbread and chili is good. It's kind of that same vibe. And it was just a cool experience to kind of learn how an ingredient that I use all the time for sweet recipes can be a lot more versatile than I ever realized.
You know the feeling when you kind of catch yourself like feeling a feeling very strongly, like you realize like, wow, I'm really happy, or oh, I'm really relaxed, or oh, I'm really sad, or whatever it is. You're just aware that you're feeling something very intensely. I had the feeling when I was making dinner on this night of just contentment and happiness in like the way that when I'm doing something creative and I'm not stressed and I feel that really nice mix of like relaxed and stimulated in a creative way, when I feel that feeling, it makes me feel really good. And cooking tends to give me that feeling. Now, obviously, sometimes cooking is just a means means to an end. It's like a busy day, you got to get food on the table and move on with your day, and that's totally normal, and me too. But there are other times where cooking is very much a creative outlet for me, and it's a really relaxing thing to do when you are doing it with that intention. And I kind of think of cooking like painting, in that I don't think most painters set out to have the picture. Like, I don't think they're standing and thinking, you know, I really want to have a painting of a lake. I think it's more the desire to paint that lake. Maybe they see a lake or they've been to a lake and they have this desire to recreate it with paint. And the process of painting that lake is something that is very enjoyable. And of course, then the outcome is also enjoyable because you have a beautiful painting, but the outcome, the end result, is not the primary motivation, or at least it's not the only motivation. Like I said, it is sometimes a means to an end, but sometimes it's the whole experience. It's the end result plus the actual process of creating it. And in this particular instance, like, I had an audiobook going, I was enjoying trying a new recipe, and just the creativity that comes from like using ingredients in a new way. And it was just my own little bubble of happiness that I found myself in. And I realized that I got there totally randomly. Like, I didn't plan to make that moment, but I got there because I had a creative day, and I decided to like come up with a silly theme, like let's have chocolate all day long, because I was in a good mood. And I think sometimes, especially if you're in sort of a creative rut or you feel burned out, it can be hard to inject your day with whimsy like that, because there's so much going on in the world right now, and there's so many responsibilities that we all have, and we can be very like robotic and mechanical about things. But because of that, it can be hard to like be in a very creative, fun, lighthearted space, or to actually be able to relax and unwind. But for me, I find the times when I really truly unwind and relax and feel that good feeling, it's because I've kind of given myself this space, and I'm not focused on tasks, but rather trying new things, putting myself out of my comfort zone, you know, whether it's a new ingredient or going to a new place or trying a new restaurant. Like, there's something about the discovery and the curious mindset that creates that really helps to open me back up and like really help me connect with the things that are meaningful to me and that I care about a lot. And so I hope this video helped to illustrate that in some way, as well as giving you some vegan meal ideas, if nothing else. It was a super random day. It was a different day than I expected it to be, but it was really fun and very delicious and very chocolatey. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed, and make sure you check out the link for Function of Beauty in the description box below, and I will see you in a video very soon. Bye everyone.